because the NFL draft is rigged against me and it is an absolute shit show.
1,000 times. The league done him wrong.
The NFL just got caught red-handed manipulating draft outcomes, and the evidence is about to destroy everything you thought you knew about fair competition. Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback with a 74.1% completion rate, mysteriously dropped 130-plus spots while his family gathered proof of what might be the biggest conspiracy in sports history.
If you got a team that's looking for a reason not to trust you,
he has a lot more work to do to prove to the NFL that he's worth more money.
The exact moment the Sanders family decided to wage war against the most powerful league in America with a $100 million lawsuit that could bring down the entire system.
League tried to teach him and his father a lesson.
But that's just the beginning of this nightmare. Reality hit differently when Shedeur's private draft party went from champagne-ready celebration to awkward silence as cameras cut away during his humiliating fifth-round selection.
The Browns did finally take him 50 picks after the Browns had already taken Dylan Gabriel, who also happens to be a quarterback.
I mean, seriously, when was the last time you saw a quarterback with legitimate first-round talent get completely ignored by every single franchise for over 140 picks? The math doesn't add up. And apparently, neither does the Sanders family's patience with what they're calling organized sabotage.
But I broke all the TVs at my house. I'm not going to allow them to embarrass me like this, so I'm withdrawing myself from this rigged draft.
And then the leaked documents surfaced. Sources close to the Sanders camp have leaked some absolutely wild information about internal NFL communications that allegedly show owners expressing concerns about media circus and brand baggage, rather than focusing on actual football talent. Think about this for a second. We've got a kid who broke multiple school records, transformed 2 different college programs, and put up better stats than the #1 overall pick. Yet somehow he's toxic enough that $32 billion franchises coordinated to avoid him? That's either the most impressive case of groupthink in sports history or something much more sinister.
Way to go, league. You did it. You punished him.
Here's where it gets absolutely insane. Whispers turned into roars when private investigators working with the Sanders legal team supposedly obtained communications showing direct back-channel conversations between ownership groups actively discouraging each other from drafting Shedeur. I'm talking about alleged evidence of owners literally telling each other to stay away unless it was absolutely necessary. If that's not textbook collusion, then I don't know what is. And trust me, federal courts take this stuff pretty seriously when there's a paper trail involved.
A couple teams that I won't allow him to play for.
Whoa. But the real trigger was what happened next. Deion's infamous Super Bowl week interviews about dictating terms and potentially pulling an Eli Manning situation apparently didn't sit well with the league's power brokers. But here's where it gets interesting. Coach Prime said he'd handle any team concerns privately, not publicly. Yet somehow his son still got blackballed harder than a backup quarterback asking for starter money. The NFL's response? Complete radio silence followed by what looks suspiciously like coordinated retaliation against a family that dared to challenge their authority.
Opened up by saying all the right things about his disgusting plummet.
The systematic destruction was methodical. Interview rooms became interrogation chambers where teams allegedly set traps designed to make Shedeur fail. Picture this. You're showing a prospect his worst plays as a test, knowing full well that most young athletes would get defensive. When Shedeur responded with, "Maybe I'm not the guy for you," to one particularly aggressive line of questioning, scouts immediately labeled him as entitled and uncoachable. But here's the kicker. They were recording these reactions and sharing them across team networks faster than trade rumors spread on Twitter.
He's spoiled rotten. He grew up with too much money. He thinks he's above the law.
These teams are all haters because they hate my dad and my cockiness.
The psychological warfare got even more sophisticated. Film sessions turned into elaborate mind games where teams intentionally planted obvious mistakes in their defensive schemes to see if prospects would catch them. Shedeur missed several of these planted errors, and suddenly every team had ammunition to question his football IQ. I've covered draft preparation for years, and this level of coordinated testing feels less like evaluation and more like sabotage. When the same concerns about a player's character start appearing in multiple team reports, you've got to wonder if someone's pulling the strings behind the curtain.
In a meeting unprepared, like Dude, Shedeur Sanders, who's had 6 different coordinators, who has still functioned and went up, leveled up every.
This is where the setup becomes crystal clear. Combine avoidance became the final nail in Shedeur's coffin. But was it really arrogance or calculated strategy? Deion has always preached that game film should speak louder than 40-yard dash times. And honestly, when you've got 74.1% completion percentage backing you up, why risk injury in meaningless drills? But NFL executives saw this as the ultimate disrespect, a player who thought he was above their evaluation process. The Senior Bowl snub added fuel to the fire, with one anonymous scout reportedly saying, "If he won't compete here, how do we know he'll compete for us?"
Contract Sanders signed today is the usual 4-year deal, but it's worth $4.6 million. Up in Colorado, he had an estimated NIL value of $6.5 million. Now,
the financial implications are staggering beyond belief. Contracts tell the real story here, and the numbers don't lie about systematic discrimination. Caleb Williams, the first overall pick, signed a 4-year deal worth $39 million with $25.5 million guaranteed. Drake May at 3rd overall, $36.6 million with $23.7 million guaranteed. Meanwhile, Shedeur's 5th-round contract with Cleveland barely scratches $4.6 million total with minimal guarantees. We're talking about a $30+ million swing in immediate earnings, and that doesn't even factor in endorsement opportunities that come with being a franchise face versus a developmental prospect.
now those deals don't just go away. Once he sticks around, once he leaves college, those individual partnerships will stick around.
But the money trail reveals something even more disturbing. Endorsements and marketing deals evaporated overnight as Shedeur's draft stock plummeted, costing him potentially tens of millions in off-field income. Nike, Adidas, and other major brands had reportedly shown interest when he was projected as a top 10 pick. But those conversations went dead silent after the Combine interviews leaked. The Sanders brand, built over decades by Deion's Hall of Fame career and media presence, took a massive hit as questions about the family's difficult reputation spread through corporate boardrooms. Sponsors don't want controversy, and somehow Shedeur became controversial without doing anything controversial.
Tyler-born Shedeur Sanders finally put the pen to paper and signed a rookie contract with the Cleveland Browns today. The only problem is, it's cheaper than the money he was making up in Colorado.
Now let's talk about the real damage. Money talks, and the numbers here are absolutely staggering. Top 10 picks in 2025 are getting around $35 million over 4 years with massive guarantees, while Shedeur signed with Cleveland for a measly $4.6 million with minimal protection. That's roughly a $30 million difference in immediate earnings. And we haven't even touched on endorsement deals, franchise quarterback money, or long-term career earnings that come with being drafted where your talent suggests you should go.
How can you not be cocky when you're as good as me, though?
The character assassination campaign was just getting started. Anonymous scouts started trashing his character to national media outlets right after these alleged interview disasters. And the Sanders legal team believes those leaks were deliberate hit jobs designed to poison his draft value. Before this story explodes everywhere else, you need to know this. Subscribe to our channel now, because when this lawsuit drops, everyone's going to be scrambling to understand what really happened, and you'll already be ahead of the game. And here's the most suspicious part of all. Cleveland ended up getting what might be the steal of the century by grabbing a first-round talent in the 5th round, saving themselves approximately $50 million in the process. The threats started immediately. Executives are reportedly furious about the potential lawsuit, with one unnamed AFC official quoted as saying, "If they sue, they're done. He'll never get another snap."
He will find his way on the field, and there's no doubt about it. There's nothing that they can do to hold him off the field.
This could destroy the NFL as we know it. Federal courts don't mess around when it comes to antitrust violations and collusion cases, especially when there's potential evidence of communications between competitors designed to manipulate market outcomes. The legal avalanche is about to begin. Subpoenas might start flying soon, targeting not just team owners, but also media outlets, scouting firms, and individual GMs who participated in draft evaluations.
I don't think he really generates a lot of that extra.
Put this here, 847 to 849, extra. What happens next will shock you. Justice might finally be coming for a young man who transformed Jackson State, elevated Colorado football to national prominence, and proved his talent on the biggest stages college football has to offer. The war has officially begun. Revolution might be too strong a word, but when a family with resources, connections, and legitimate grievances decides to take on the most powerful sports league in America, the ripple effects could change how business gets done in professional football forever.
Because he has a lot more work to do to prove to the NFL that he's worth more money.
And here's what it all means. Ultimately, we're about to find out if the NFL's shield can protect them from federal scrutiny when there's potential evidence of systematic discrimination against players who dare to challenge their authority. Shedeur Sanders was supposed to be celebrating a multi-million-dollar contract as a top 10 pick. Instead, he's about to become the face of what might be the biggest legal challenge the NFL has faced since antitrust legislation created the modern draft system. The game just changed, and the Sanders family is playing for keeps. The Sanders family just declared war on the NFL, and they're not backing down.